We tried to organize this in a way that would be really helpful, but we took some of your most common questions and we asked each of the people that are going to present to do a very short little presentation on a very tight subject. And then we will also do Q&A, so there'll be plenty of time to talk about things. We are a larger group than this. Dr. Irma Ray is not here. She had a medical emergency that she had to attend to. She is an environmental medicine expert. In fact, she's the immediate past president of the American Academy of Environmental Medicine. And she has started a training program here at Nova Southeastern University just this past year in environmental medicine with a real focus on military toxic exposure. Very exciting, the first one in the country. Really important thing to be doing. Dr. Bested, who had to walk away because that we ran a little late here and she didn't get to give her talk at the timely way, is the medical director of our clinical program here and is an integrative medicine physician who joined us from Canada just a couple years ago. And she is also helping coordinate how we're growing our clinic and expanding veterans' access to our clinic, which is a clinic that is really focused on complex medical conditions. We're chronic fatigue syndrome experts before the Gulf War, and then the Gulf War happened 30 years ago, so if you really want to put my years in this place, make that 40, not 30. But the point is that the best home base I can think of for Gulf War illness, wherever you live, whatever you're doing, is in an integrative medicine program because your whole body is affected and the focus of treatment in integrative medicine is try to restore health, not system by system, but in a very cellular and organically healthy way. It's a very good thing to consider. So with no further ado, I'm going to actually let people introduce themselves as they go down because I'm tired of talking today. And I don't know who's first. Okay.
So once again, my name is Violetta Renesca. I'm a nurse practitioner working working at the Institute for Neuro-Immune Clinic. So I'm just going to give quick overview, more for layperson, because you guys, if you are veterans, you know that. So who are the Gulf War veterans? So Gulf War area started in 1999 with Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, but that lasted for about a year. The Gulf War military theater is still open, so anyone who served in that area from 1991 till 1990 till now, it's considered a Gulf War veteran. Veterans that start coming from this region start complaining about symptoms of fatigue, pain, rashes, GI problems, dizziness, respiratory problems, all the symptoms that we know as a Gulf War illness. However, the Gulf War illness is more a research term that pertains to veterans of the Desert Shield and Desert Storm. Veterans that, any veterans from Gulf War area will be diagnosed with something called chronic multisymptom illness or medically unexplained illness. And this is an umbrella that covers four conditions: myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, functional gastrointestinal disorders, and undiagnosed illness. So what is chronic fatigue syndrome? Chronic fatigue syndrome, the main symptoms is fatigue. Fatigue usually is not relieved by rest. It's not proportional to the effort that you do. Other symptoms include pain, headaches, cognitive problem, memory concentration issue, GI problems, sleep problems. Many of the symptoms of chronic fatigue overlap with the fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia, the main symptoms is pain. It's widespread pain. Patient can also have symptoms of fatigue and memory problems. The functional GI disorder, it's mostly functional dyspepsia, other known as indigestion and irritable bowel syndrome. And the last one is any other symptoms that you were not maybe diagnosed with as a part of other illness. So if any veterans have those symptoms, it's very important that you ask for care, because the veterans that I see, they often say, oh, I have friends, I have coworkers, they have those symptoms, but they don't go to the doctor. So it is important that you ask your doctor and you look for help. And Denise will tell you, or will talk to you about how to talk to the doctor to be heard and to address those symptoms. Thank you.
Hi, again, my name is Denise. I am here on behalf of Dr. Bested, who unfortunately had an appointment and she was not able to stay. She is a medical director of the Institute for Neuro-Immune Medicine. She is the chair of the integrative medicine and is trying to put together an integrative medicine degree here at Nova. So her topic was how to get the best bang for your buck. You have 10 minutes with your physician. Your time is precious. You don't want to waste it. But remember one thing, your doctors are there to help you. So come ready to help your doctor help you. Okay, not all doctors are trained in conditions related to the deployment, specifically in the Gulf War or any kind of military maneuvers. The good news is that doctors are quick learners and speed readers. Doctors do know how to give supportive care. So if you're having trouble, symptomatic trouble, ask for care for the symptoms that you're having. There's a few tips for your next doctor's healthcare visit. Come prepared. Organize the day before. Maybe bring someone who will be an extra pair of ears for you, because you're not going to remember everything that your providers are telling you. Prioritize your need. Bring something to write down what is said to you. When you come, bring a list of your medications, your supplements, specifics. How do you take it? When do you take it? If there's any side effects. If you have symptoms, bring a list of your symptoms. Is there anything that's improved? Is there anything that's worsened? Write down if you need a referral. If you need a referral, what type of referral do you need? And if you have forms to be completed, bring those forms. If you're asking for any kind of a scheduled medication, any medications at all actually, bring your bottles with you so that we can write the prescriptions correctly. Tell us in your symptoms what's improved, what's gotten worse. The way that you say this, you'll say, before I was able to do this, this, and this. Like we talked about the Gulf War veterans. Before they could run 6-minute miles, but now they're running 12-minute miles. So come with parameters, and that helps us to gauge, are you doing better or are you doing worse? If you have a problem, do you have psychosocial problems? What exactly are there? Are you gaining weight? Are you losing weight? If you've seen referrals, tell us who have you seen, what have they said. If you need referrals, ask about counseling. What type of individual, what group, who's available, where do I go, is there a cost, and how is a referral made? If you have any questions about your referral, ask. We're very happy to provide that information for you. If you have forms to fill out, tell us when the forms need to be filled out by. Fill out as much of the detail as you can. Please put your name on it at the minimum. When we're filling out forms, we need to have your names on there so that we don't lose them. For a history, some of your histories are extremely complex. Write down bullet points. When you're bringing records this thick, it's very difficult for physicians, however fast they may be readers, to get through all of that. So the best way is just to put dates, put times, and bullet points. And if you can remember the medications, the referrals, the progress, put all of those in kind of summarized forms. For appointments, like I said, yeah, bring a summarized history of all of that. As far as your illness goes, very important when it comes to the Gulf War illness, what you want to do is you want to say, when did the illness start? When were you deployed? Did you develop any infectious diseases? Did you have any accidents? Did you have any crashes? How was it treated? How did it affect you? Is it affecting your sleep? Is it causing pain? What type of pain? Where does the pain go? What were you like before you started getting sick, and where are you now? Finally, a summary is you come prepared. Medications, supplements, your symptoms. Try to keep it down to 3. If you tell us 15 things, we're not going to remember. Bring with 3 very important things that we can deal with on a visit. 3 very important problems, three very important issues. If you need referrals, write it down. An old Army vet told me this: the shortest pencil is greater than the longest memory. Don't rely on your memory when you come in to see us. Write it down, be specific, summarize, and we are here to help you. Thank you.
My name is Irina Rozenfeld. I'm nurse practitioner. I work with Dr. Klimas here at Nova Southeastern University almost 10 years, and I start seeing patients referred to us from VA. I'm very thankful for you coming to us. And as Dr. Klimas mentioned earlier today, this illness really we can correlate. My training with chronic fatigue very much helpful, and I also trained in integrative medicine. I want to say particular thank you to Anthony Hardy. He covered my talk before. He's definitely the adopter of integrative medicine, and I mentioned that we incorporate integrative medicine a lot because the illness has so many, it's a multi-system illness. There is a neuroinflammation, but we also, over these 30 years, I see in patients metabolic disbalance, I see endocrine problem, neurologic problem, I see multi-system problem, which I cannot address just with medication. What we see often, polypharmacy, when for each new symptoms you are given drug and you're taking this drug for a long time, sometimes more than it's supposed to be taken, and this medication may cause its own drug-induced deficiencies, where this is why we are trying to put supplements and nutraceuticals, because we know that some medication you're taking chronically possibly affect and make some deficiencies in your body. So this slide, I advocate that you need to see physician, in a nurse practitioner, any clinician. I do not advocate for you to listen podcast and start taking supplements or nutraceuticals. You have to have physical exam. You have to have evaluation and educated recommendation based on the science. Supplements can be very helpful. They can be dangerous. Where you obtain supplements, which protocol you follow, it is important. And I really like to work with the patients, and I call it personalized medicine, because you really need to put some work too. You know that because you live with this illness for a long time. Everything important. Your sleep is important because we are circadian features. We have to live in 24 hours circle, and it's important if we sleep at night and what time we went to sleep, and it's important what time we wake up. And it's follow particular hormones during the daytime. It's important for you to be outside, and sun should shine to your retina, and you produce melatonin, and then this melatonin put you asleep at night. And then in the morning, cortisol will be highest level, and it will wake you up and make you less in pain and less inflamed and ready to go. Unfortunately, we don't see it in our patient very often. And with a clinician, you can address all these details. And this is where lifestyle modification, and you have to do your work and participate in all these lifestyle modifications. There is a lot of things what we can address without medication. Meditation, there is kind of backwards. I don't see my slide. I go by memory right now. Yeah, yes. I want to give you something to take home. And we live in a Western civilization. Besides of your initial onset illness and your initial environmental exposure, unfortunately, we continue being exposed to not just the tens or hundreds, thousands of chemicals, and even people without, patients without your exposure, develop a lot of chronic multi-system illnesses on daily basis. We see another patient with the same problem, with the same symptoms very often. I put links on this slide, and you can have access later. So there one very, very comprehensive website, and it's on the top of the slide. Environmental Working Group. You can find on this slide information and link to local information, what's the water quality in your city, what's the air quality in your city, and etc. There is an app for the phone, also supported by this organization, Environmental Working Group. And this app will help you to define what kind of food you eat. And it's important because if you only have your food intake from conventional grown food, sometimes their expected nutritional value is not really there because of poor soil or agricultural practices. And I know that it's expensive and difficult, but we advocate for organic food, or at least you can use this app and see Dirty Dozen and choices of your food. On the top of there is a website. It's not a medical. It has disclaimers that it's for your information only. It's called My Tavin. It's absolutely free, but you can put your medications there or symptoms. You can play with this app, and it can guide you. And you have to show it and share with your clinician. It can show you what possible nutrient deficiency you have because you take in medication or you have particular symptoms. It helps. On another link on the slide, I use with some of my patients even during the visit, and they fallen asleep sometimes, so got very, very relaxed, and I with them. It's called Health Journeys, and it's a big library. It's evidence-based. It's a really good research behind all this meditation and guided imagery. And you can have access to this library and pick for fatigue, for fibromyalgia, for anxiety, for sleep, all kind of meditation. And you can pick which author or which provider on that website. And then Breathe to Relax. It's supported by DoD and developed by DoD. It's a meditation, really short meditation app you can have on your cell phone and use it many times during the day. It can be helpful. There is from self-care, from what you can do for yourself and help clinicians. So you need to discuss diet, you need to discuss your sleep, you need to address stress, right? And I'm trying to give you a link. Instead of talking today, you can come home and follow. I'm going backward.
Very good. There you go. That's your next one, I think.
Sorry. This is one of my integrative medicine teacher, and I decided to give him some podium here because he also, you can see from his credentials, he also Colonel of United States Army, but he also was in director of center in World Health Organization, and he's currently leading integrative health clinic in California. But he also has website, and I want you to follow his website because there is a really nice publication on self-care, and you can read it, his statement, and this is kind of theme for my talk today. Chronic disease requires an approach in which healing is important as curing. The focus is not just on countering illness, but also on supporting health, fully integrating preventative care and self-care, with treatment of the disease, illness, and injury. That approach is called integrative health. And this is how I want to finish, because we really like to integrate advanced biomedical science and still use your self-care techniques and be able, we've seen it, we know that it works, and we want to just continue on the same road. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm me here today. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I have the very unique opportunity of working in 2 camps. I'm going to be working with the Center for Neuroimmunology with the Gulf War veterans. I am also going to be treating veterans and their families through a grant, a $5 million grant that was offered by the state of Florida to serve the Gulf War, not just Gulf War, to serve veterans and their families, their immediate dependents. You just make an appointment. All right, there should be a number there that you can call to reach the Veterans Access Clinic. The services that we offer through the Veterans Access Clinic are dental, their optometry, their family therapy, their physical therapy. There's just a multitude of services. Please use those services because this is a limited grant for right now. If we have veterans who are using it, their families who are using it, this is going to be something that's going to be continued, and I really do urge you to take advantage of these services. So the last thing that I wanted to say is I come away from this conference with a couple of very key realizations. It takes time to turn a ship around. 29 years for the first wave of Gulf War vets, which is way too long. If something is wrong, keep talking about it. You're going to go to your primary care. Those of you who would come to see me, who bring your families, bring your symptoms to us, and also talk about it to Congress. Talk about it with each other so you can validate the problems that you're having. That's one of the ways that you can advocate for yourselves and for others. There are people who care about your suffering. They're doing work from the molecular level, like Dr. Klimas, all the way to the whole person level. Someone like me, I don't have the specific information that Dr. Klimas has, but your provider should have access to people who do know what we don't know. So come to see us. We're happy to see you. We're happy to treat you. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. So again, this is nationally being streamed, and yet we're talking about a lot of local resources, but that's okay. Something that's happened in the VA system in the last 3 years, a congressionally directed space, is that the VA is increasingly relying on community resources. And you as veterans have the right for rapidly responsive care. And so you all are aware that there's something called the Community Care Program, separate from this new program the state of Florida gave us. You can be referred for what you need that you don't think you're getting in a timely way from the VA by your primary care provider. Anything that is, not just what we do, but whatever. So that's important to realize that you can use this community care referral system to help you with your own health care needs. I'm speaking to this national audience because very few VAs have a Gulf War illness expert, as in very few, one hand. And there are hundreds of VA facilities. There's very few experts. So if you don't think you're getting the expert care you need at your facility, you can ask your community care consult to the community you live in for an expert that could really help you. And I am promoting integrative or functional medicine for that consult when people can't get what they're supposed to get at the VA. Now, the VAs have a little bit of integrative medicine. Some VAs have a lot of integrative medicine. Some of them have practically none. But a clinician, integrative medicine physician or provider would certainly be the minimum requirement I would be looking for within VA care for Gulf War illness. So I'm just going to say that. So and I also want to give Violetta 5 gold stars. First, she got her doctorate in December. Yay. But second, she's the one that established at Nova our veterans clinic in our complex medical illness program. And so for the last 3 years, been that long? 4 years? 4 years. She's been the, oh my goodness, 5 years, primary point of contact for consults that are coming from the VA. We're trying to figure out what we're doing now with this new state grant that lets us take care of veterans without insurance. That's really exciting because right now, if you came from the VA pays for that. And that's great. But this new clinic, the one that Denise is going to be the Miami face of, the Kendall Clinic, but there's also a clinic up here in Davie as well. That clinic is doing primary care for veterans and their families. And as I say, doing some stuff we can't do at the VA, like your teeth. How many veterans get dental care at the VA? It's a very tightly restricted privilege. You know, you have to have had an oral injury while active duty or be 100% service connected to have that service. So great, take care of your mouth. It's really important to your care. While you're looking, we'll go ahead and go with the first question at the microphone. Go ahead. Since you waited so patiently and never were heard from the last time.
It's okay. I appreciate y'all doing this and the opportunity that you have that now is given to the community. My name is Rico. I'm a Desert Storm veteran. I deal with multiple things that you have heard, fibromyalgia, which, I mean, as a man, you know, they said it's not, men don't have it, but it's mostly, they say, a women disease, so I had to fight with them. But even with the what Nova is now offering, which is appreciated, my wife, you know, I work for a veteran service organization, Disabled American Veteran, and we put the flyers out on our desk for the services that a Nova is passing out. And my wife is getting ready to do the eye and I guess the dental. So I want to say thank you for
That's
for
great.
that.
Thank you for that feedback.
The other thing is, as veterans, I think that we don't understand the power that we have, even though we're going to y'all, going to doctors and everything. We don't understand what we have. We have treatments that doctors are given, and based upon, you know, because in order for us to do a disability claim, we need to hear from what the doctors have to say. Some doctors in the VA, Dr. Klimas, probably not you, but they don't want to fill out the DBQs. They're very hesitant about filling out the DBQs and stuff because it's going to reflect them something negative and they worried about it coming back. But it affects us as veterans trying to get our disability. So I'm hoping that even with talking with you about this, that you can try to encourage not only just in the Miami, but also in the other VA system, that one, it's a regulation, they must fill out DBQs and stuff. They have to fill them out and stuff, and fill them out properly. The other thing is, even going out into the community for, there's got to be a level where, I think one of the gentlemen had already spoke about, where the communication is a lot better between the different VAs, because I do take care at the Miami, but my primary is West Palm Beach, and there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a disconnect in between the two systems. So it's got to be a better way to communicate, a better way to link. But even one of my point of going to see the different doctors, if you do not get what you're asking from that doctor, it's okay to ask to go and see another doctor. Mm-hmm. You don't have to take just that one opinion. Mm-hmm. You do not have to take it. So a lot of us think that, well, that particular doctor has given me an opinion and stuff, and I can't. But you have the right to request, and you have to fight for it. What they say, the squeaky wheel get the oil. If you don't fight for it, you just may settle in just what they say. But we have to fight. We are veterans. We've known to fight. So even in our VA system, even though it's called a VA, it's still our veterans, and we have to fight to get what we fought for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to comment on it because I hear that a lot from my patients, the veterans. And you do have to be your own advocate, and you have to ask. And sometimes you will hear no, or you will get nowhere. You just have to keep asking, and eventually it will be get done. Because sometimes I hear patients that they've been asking for a year to be seen in our clinic. And if they're persistent, they will get to us. But if they give up after they hear first no, then they will be suffering quietly, and nobody will know about it.
To go along with that, veterans and the wives that are here, 2 comments. Number one, a lot of the VA hospitals, you may not know, I'm out of Denver, and I think majority here are Florida, but there is a need to find out, you can find out, go to the administrator of your facility. They usually have a veterans committee, okay? If they don't have one, you can definitely bring it forward as an idea that you would be willing to serve as a contact person and be on a veterans committee for Desert Storm vets. They should have it for OIF, OEF in Afghanistan. So those are things that you can find out if your VA hospital or your VA facility has a veterans committee. They used to have them all over the place. So you have to check, find out, bring it forward as a suggestion. If they don't have one functional, that one be started. I know that they have town hall meetings, and to be aware, when you go to town hall, it's kind of like they get up and have their program speeches, like they're talking to the vets, and they're not hearing from the vets. We're all veterans. We all had our different ranks and our different jobs. Speak up and get those changes happening. It's not just for you, but it's for all the other veterans in that hospital, that facility, okay? And that's what I mean by teamwork and stepping up to the issue. Not only that, with our representatives and our senators, they have town hall meetings. Are they having a town hall meeting for veterans specifically? Even if they're not on the Veterans Committee? You can call their local office. They have people in their office that are veteran staffers, for veterans issues, and bring it up. Ask them to have a town hall meeting in your district, okay? That helps because you build that grassroots movement. And you don't have to go to D.C. to go do it. We love to see y'all up in D.C. I've done a lot of that myself. But we've got a grassroots. We all have military skills to get back into the leadership, get back into working buddy to buddy, helping each other, and things that could happen. And right now we're kicking off our sign-on letter on the House. It's a deadline. So when you do that, I'm just going to add, you have to call the D.C. office on legislation or funding. And we have a deadline for them to sign on. So you need to call, we start with the House. So you need to call your representative. Find other vets in Florida, they're in a different district. Get the word out to them. And Anthony has all the guidance on 91 outcomes. If we don't get the funding, we can't get the answers we need. So it's several steps, like Jimmy has the 1, 2, 3. Okay, you do that, then you get the vets into the research. You're going to be working out there as a group of veterans. So you help us get the word out to other veterans to participate. If they're healthy veterans, ill, we need them. The other thing is to get involved with the hospital, see if they have a veterans committee. Bring the issues out. We're having problems with the doctors not knowing anything. We can help problem solve. We've got ideas. We can lay it out.
Sorry, that's great, but that's all the political stuff, and we're supposed to be doing clinical stuff.
The last thing is the clinician knowledge. And that's what I'm saying. Go back to your hospitals, your facilities, see if they have a veterans committee, because you can bring up problem solve.
So we have a lot of problems with systems, and I am here to say that we all need to, and that's great, the idea of having an advocacy group at each individual VA to try to help answer some of the institutional problems. I'm going to say a couple of quick things, okay? First, there's a big difference between a primary care visit where the doctor is limited to 15 minutes of time, and a specialty visit such as we do, where we give every new patient a full hour, and in my case, a full hour of follow-up as well. So that's a very big thing. And the healthcare system in this country is moving back to giving complex illnesses more time. And more, Medicare, for instance, has got billing codes and things that let us spend more time with complicated patients, which is wonderful. It's making a difference in the quality of care people are getting, okay? So we've got streaming questions. I'm going to pick up a couple, and then we'll get to that microphone. One of the questions asks about what to do if you're a veteran not from 1990-91, but were exposed to toxins in the Middle East in deployment that happened after that time. So I pump that to one of y'all.
You have to do the same thing what the Gulf War illness veterans do. You have to go and ask, tell the doctor your symptoms, and go and ask and have ask for referral to specialists that specialize in Gulf War illness. Because, as I said, Gulf War illness is more a research term. In our clinic, beside the Gulf War veterans, we see patients with chronic fatigue syndrome, which the name is different, but the symptoms are the same. Usually people have fatigue that is worse with physical or mental activity. The fatigue is not relieved by rest. They have an unrefreshing sleep. They sleep, they wake up, and they don't feel better. They have cognitive problems. They don't remember things. They cannot concentrate on more than one thing. They get easily tired. They have stomach issues, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn. They may have dizziness, palpitation. They may have rashes. So all those symptoms are symptoms of Gulf War illness, chronic fatigue. So if you're a veteran, you're still a veteran of Gulf War area, ask for referral.
And usually clinic will have specialists if it's clinic with chronic fatigue syndrome. There is another conditions with autonomic dysfunction. There is another diseases which overlap in symptoms. And in this clinic, you will be able to be diagnosed correctly and importantly got treatment.
There's a specific question about a whole host of integrative or complementary strategies that have been employed, and ask about whether or not it's safe. For instance, a person who goes to see an integrative doctor who wants to use IV glutathione or sauna or this sort of thing. So perhaps you might address, how does a consumer, a veteran, know how far to go down that path and what's considered safe?
I want to start with supplements. Dr. Klimas knows how concerned I am. I recommend obtain supplements from, it's better from local compounding pharmacy when you really can talk with your pharmacist. I never recommend Amazon because it's just marketplace. You don't know what you actually get in there. And it needs to be prescribed. Usually, if any practitioners recommend you supplements, they will tell you where to obtain it. Sometimes to go for cheaper version is not best way. If you have a clinician with who you establish long-term relationships, and then you went to see someone else and got new recommendation, it's always good to communicate between providers. Make sure that your primary doctor and your specialist who seeing you for Gulf War illness will agree with another recommendation, because you can be on two not parallel treatments which not supporting each other. It's really difficult to tell, and I will not be able to tell you this is a good treatment or bad treatment, but you have to pull expertise from everyone you see and make sure that the treatment you think beneficial for you because you see this podcast or see YouTube or some even friend veteran benefit from that. It's not guaranteed that you're gonna benefit from that. And I have to be cautious, and a recommendation needs to be waived with the doctor who see you more often or knows you well. It's a difficult answer, question.
Yeah, so I just want to add, so if you don't know how far to go with the treatment, ask the doctor, ask lots of questions, because not everybody can tolerate sauna or certain supplements. So if you're not sure, ask what is the evidence, what is the safety, what are possible side effects, are there any research studies done on these supplements? You can ask those questions, and the provider should be able to answer them for you if they want to use the supplements on you.
I think a common presentation in Gulf War illness in terms of medication tolerance makes tremendous sense. You all went into a theater and you had a tremendous number of exposures, and you stayed sick. For every one of you, there are 2 people that came home and got pretty much better. The difference is that you were vulnerable because of how fast your body's able to detoxify things it sees, or else you got the hell of a load compared to the next guy, right? So it's all about detoxification. So here you are, fast forward 30 years. It's not like your detoxification system got better, right? I mean, you already had kind of a crapped out detoxification system. So then we start shoving drugs at you, right? And we think it's going to work the usual way. When in fact you get toxic reactions like that, like that, like that, because you really build up high levels of things. Your liver's not clearing this stuff, you know. So the lesson learned is go slow and layer, right? If your doctor gives you pregabalin, Lyrica, the initial dose might be toxic. You might actually need only half that dose to get the same benefit of the next person. When we start putting on nutraceuticals, put one on at a time, make sure you tolerate it before you layer on another. Don't take a bucket of nutraceuticals all at one time and then go, man, I'm sick, I'm never gonna do that again. Because then you won't give yourself a chance whether or not that'll work. But when you listen to Anthony talking about what helped him the most, just listen to that nice talk he had. I've asked him before, if I could take everything away except 3 things, what would you stay with? What would be yours? And not one of them's a pharmaceutical. You know, every single one is a nutraceutical you couldn't pry out of his hands. So that's really interesting. So bottom line is, let us do this research. Gosh, I would love to be able to prescribe curcumin at the VA. I can't put it on the formulary till I finish that darn study, right? Same thing with the liposomal glutathione. And oh my gosh, CoQ10, that's so obvious. And yet, you know, when I start giving people these, you need to take this, that, and the other, I'm laying out $120 a month of nutraceuticals. And I can tell you the average vet doesn't have $120 for nutraceuticals. Okay, so I'd rather let the federal government pay for that. So you have to participate in our studies. But also, don't think nutraceuticals are not medicine. They really are medicine, and sometimes very powerful medicine. So those studies have to happen in addition to the pharmaceutical studies and other things that we're all doing. Oh, this is a really important question. It's got to do with your comp and pen applications. How do you get the diagnosis? You can have all these symptoms, you seem to meet the case definition, but some doctor has to give you the diagnosis. And the answer is actually not true. There's no such thing as Gulf War illness as an ICD-9 or 10 code. When you're filling out the forms, you're filling out the chronic fatigue syndrome form, the fibromyalgia form, the bronchitis form, the layer it all on, everything you got form, and then the compilation of that ends up being what Comp and Pen's dealing with when it's going through. So I'll give you the label. I'm happy to give you the label. Anyone that's been in a research study is going to have the label. But what you need to go through the process is a doctor willing to write those other diagnoses down And honestly, chronic fatigue syndrome is a symptom-based diagnosis. It's kind of an easy diagnosis to make. And the form's right there, they just have to check the boxes. Okay? It's a 2-page form. It's not too much to ask them to fill out the darn form.
Just to add to that, when they give them diagnostics, if you can ask them, can you relate that back to my time of service?
Absolutely.
That's
important.
That's very important.
Yeah. Which comes to time of service. There's 2 times when this illness becomes apparent. Many people came home ill and stayed that way. That Anthony told you his personal story. It was just like that, right? He was sick in theater. Some of the studies have restricted people who became ill within a few years of coming home. We sort of made that stuff up, but at least then you know that you're dealing with something that apparently is a consequence of service. Remember, what we do for research is to keep the group size clean, and they didn't have some other disease, and we mixed them all up, and now we don't know what's going on. So we have to have a tighter case definition for research than you do for clinical use. However, now there's this second wave of veterans 30 years later starting to come up with one illness after another, and you can't say it wasn't because of their service. We know the people in the Gulf had a hell of a physiologic hit, and on many different layers. They may not have been completely well, but the symptoms didn't become apparent, or the new diagnoses didn't become apparent. Like, take your cancer diagnosis, sir. I'm sorry that happened to you, but we knew from research that the cells that prevent cancer and fight cancer have been in very poor shape from the beginning of time, from that time. And so your risk was there. So there's no reason you shouldn't be able to push that into a consequence of service category. So anyway, that was one question.
I appreciate the insight, and thank you guys for being here. You made a comment that a lot of the questions that people have are local concerns, and that this is a nationwide stream. I think that a lot of the local issues that these veterans are dealing with and their families are dealing with are nationwide issues. I think that the destiny of your research and whatever answers that promises, it's tied hand in hand with the VA. You guys have a symbiotic relationship. If the veterans don't have trust in the VA and the processes at the VA, and there's no communication at the VA, I don't understand how you guys can hope to get the kind of research pool that you guys are hoping for later on if the veterans are apathetic about the system and they don't want to contribute any more of their time, effort, money, and patience, frankly, at the system. So, I mean, that's not your concern. I think that it's something that...
It's a concern, because the relationship that was poisoned early on when you came back from service and no one believed you, mm-hmm. I totally understand why you feel the door was slammed in your face. And then we're coming around, 30 years later and saying, we can't really help you because we can't find you. But mm-hmm. you left for very good reason. So I just love the person who said, there's the VA and then there's the people in the VA. And if you could separate that out of your head and not perceive that everybody that's really trying to help mm-hmm. is part of a bad system, therefore you shouldn't participate.
But good individuals exist in bad systems, and ultimately the results of the system are what play out in reality. So
yeah, I agree. But I love that Denise thought that you could influence the system. I love that. Because I can tell you, the day we started using veteran advocates in our research much more intensely day to day was the day we were more successful as scientists.
And that's kind of a segue into my next question. What kind of efforts have been taken specifically to find research participants? The advocacy program is great because veterans are a community, just like anybody else. They seek each other out for insight. They seek each other out they lend each other credibility for things that work, things that don't work. Veterans in particular are, that's kind of how they do business. So the advocacy group is awesome. The social media stuff, I haven't seen much on social media. That's not to say that it doesn't exist. I don't want to say that. But I think that there's social media tools that could be leveraged to help you guys find the populations that you guys are looking for. There's YouTube channels like Veteran TV. There's big podcasts like Joe Rogan. He's had veterans on there, veteran advocates on there. And I mean, he has millions of viewers per day, 5 million subscribers. There's many social media channels and outlets that I think could be taken advantage of if they were reached out to and given the proper information, condensed information that's easily digestible. Somebody else had mentioned that. I think you mentioned that. You know, information that these guys can digest in a sitting. They don't have, you know, we have the luxury of sitting here for a couple hours. Many people don't, and that's one thing. But then I had more clinical questions for you as well. Besides that.
Okay, and I really would like to get it back to clinical care because this is your opportunity.
100%, yeah, I'm coming back there.
Yeah.
So I had questions about the different subsets of GWI, and
Okay.
just could you shed light on the different kinds of subsets that we see?
Oh, that's such a good question. So there's different ways to look at subsets. First, men and women, different. Men and women with comorbid something else, different. TBI, PTSD, anxiety disorder, depression, diabetes. Huge number of veterans with Gulf War illness that have developed diabetes. So there's that. Or you can go down into a more pathophysiology space and say, can we find biologic signatures that would separate these people out and help us not just separate them, but find new targets for just that group, right? So in there, we're very, very keen on this autoimmune subgroup. There's the brain autoantibodies that Dr. Sullivan and Dr. Abudonia have described. We don't know if they are meaningful, if they're causing the disease or not, but we know they're there. And so that's why we designed this study to try to treat antibody production as a problem and see if we could get some improvement there. But there's another really important autoimmune disease that's new, that's very prevalent in Gulf War illness, but newly described the understanding of it. It's something called small fiber neuropathy.
Oh, yes.
And small fiber neuropathy is the cause of roughly half of fibromyalgia out there. And it's autoimmune. So the treatment is not pain management, the treatment is immune management. But those early studies to see what kind of immune management are we talking about, they're not done yet. They're just newly posted on clinicaltrials.gov. There's nice case reports, but there's not clean studies done yet on how to treat small fiber neuropathy. Though this B-cell depletion study that we're about to do for brain autoantibody would also approach fibromyalgia autoantibody. So we're going to incorporate the fibro piece into the protocol. So we'll learn something about that. So autoimmune mediated disease. One of the problems with the immune system is it's so screwed up, the viruses reactivate. And so then that becomes a targetable treatment. Should we treat these viruses, or at least the broken immune system, or both? That's a common thing. I'd love you guys to address that question. And then the dysautonomia,
Yes.
which is to say the autonomic nervous system, which controls your blood pressure and pulse and your digestion and everything else under the sun. That's a really big piece. And again, that's a lovely question to throw to the panel. I'm trying to throw some clinical questions to the panel. What else would I throw? The other questions I'd throw to the panel have to do with sleep and how to get more restorative sleep. And finally, we haven't talked about it, pacing.
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you guys grab a couple of those questions and then we'll grab another microphone.
Can I
So
say
let the question.
one more question or we answer?
Whatever.
Okay. Hi, Alice Sadler again. I'm a doctoral candidate at Grand Canyon University. And I have everything related to Gulf War illness with the exception, I don't have diabetes, I don't have any cancer presentation, although I have a thyroid that's full of tumors, they're benign. So my question is, all of this lovely work is for naught if it doesn't have a bridging strategy into the use of it in the VA. And I heard this alluded to earlier. Has there been any, I'm an organizational development practitioner. Has there been any strategy presented in the clinical sense to bridge into practice into the VA?
So we're being probably overly traditional. in the sense that we're doing these phase 1, 2, and 3 trials proving it and then saying, hey, the evidence says this, you got to put it on formulary. So that's one thing. At the VA, there has been a research advisory committee since Andrew and colleagues forced them to do it and then paid attention, but there hasn't been a clinical committee in a very long time, and maybe 20 years since the last time a clinical committee met that would help make those bridges happen. So I think it's a very important question you raise. I don't think it's been appropriately answered. There's nothing I see in the wings that suggests it's being easily done. The Research Advisory Committee sort of took that on because we do public testimony for 3 hours every single time we meet, and this is what they talk about.
So
You know,
can I get with you offline to document that gap?
I couldn't hear you.
Could I get with you offline to document that gap?
Great. That'd be really, really good.
Thank you.
Super.
I just had one question for you. It was actually for Denise. The list that you spoke of what we should bring with us when we go to our primary care doctor, is there somewhere that we can get that? That seems like the most comprehensive list I've heard or seen in a few years.
I'm pretty sure these PowerPoints are going to be available afterwards. You'll be able to access all of that information when you review the PowerPoints on the Institute for Neuroimmunology.
On our webpage.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
That's great. So while he's, do you want to have a question, sir?
I just want to note with regards to clinical care, and it was one of the questions earlier, the Gulf War Illness Research Program has an underutilized funding mechanism. It has had very few applicants since it was first initiated 2 years ago, and it's the Patient Provider and Health Communications Award. And I'm just going to read one sentence about what it is intended to do, and that is, it's the development and maintenance of strategies to effectively communicate Gulf War illness research and clinical recommendations to diverse audiences with the goal of informing and raising awareness and applicants seeking support for these kinds of communication strategies should consider this Patient Provider and Health Communications Award.
That's great, thank you. And that's exactly, well, the integration panel knows where the problems lie. I'd like to take a moment just to do pearls. Let's go down the line and do pearls, okay?
Okay, so I talk about pacing because when you come to us and you say, oh, I'm fatigued, right? And we throw some supplements at you and maybe some more medication. That's great and that can help you a little bit better, but there's lots of that you can do for yourself. And one of the things that we teach patients is pacing. No matter what the fatigue is coming from, it's just your body, it's a symptom. Your body is telling you that you don't have enough energy, your body cannot produce enough energy for what you want to do. And now you still have all those things that you want to do, but the energy is much smaller. And how are you going to accomplish it? So the pacing is pretty much breaking your things that you do in a small little pieces and taking rest periods in between. And when we say rest periods, we mean laying down in quiet space, meditating, napping, sleeping, not sitting in front of the computer or not watching TV or browsing on your phone. Because we spend energy in 3 different ways. We spend energy physically, and that's easy for everyone to understand, right? When you exercise, when you do shopping, when you vacuum the home. The second way we spend energy is mentally. So conversation on the phone, watching TV, reading on the computer, that requires energy, that requires brain energy. And third way we spend energy is an emotional way. And this is stress, PTSD, anxiety. If you have a fight with your neighbor, that will eat up your energy, and then it will have physical symptoms. You will feel more fatigue. So you have to take all that in consideration. And everybody, this is very individualistic because everybody is different. And veterans are the worst because they put in your mind that no matter how you feel, you have to push through, right? And so that's what you guys do. And you don't give yourself a break, right? So you have to change how you think and take breaks in between and let your body rest, because if your body is telling you, I need a break, you need to listen to it. Thank you.
I want to follow up, Violetta, and mention that avoid stress, manage stress, recognize stress, and work at home and learn how to manage it. Also, you're helping your clinician if you got observatory skills. You watch what did you eat and how you feel after that. You may need to make note. You may need to make note and bring it next time to practitioner. There is a lot of data and information. We know the chronic illness can contribute to autoimmune disease. The particular food, exposure to food, have a cross-reactivity, and you can have autoimmune reaction. Your immune system will react. Everything there, our gut is actually huge exposure for our immune system, where our immune system constantly got primed for chronic low-grade inflammation. And there is a brain-gut axis. It's like highway, and everything what happens in your gut, it corresponds to your brain, and you have cognitive brain fog after you eat this piece of pizza. You only one who can recognize it, and then figure out that maybe this big load of carbs make me sick and kind of sleepy this afternoon, and I should address it. So there is a lot to cover. Nutrition is important. What do you eat? When do you eat? You shouldn't eat before you go to sleep. However, and this is what I'm stressing again, you have to work with practitioner, because some people was questioned earlier about fasting. For some people it may be good. However, patients who complain about feeling unrefreshed in the morning, and particularly patients with diabetes or with chronic fatigue syndrome, with Gulf War illness, sometimes they feel unrefreshed in the morning because we have hypoglycemia on the middle of the night. And for these patients, instead of being on a fasting for 3 days, they need a snack before they go to sleep. So you have to really watch yourself, because we cannot do that. We have you, lucky for us, we have you hour and sometimes 2 hours with us, but we cannot see it. But we need you to bring this information to us, and we can evaluate what does it mean for your health. Okay?
Just a couple little, I'm going to do some closing pearls because we've really run time through here. But first, if you have non-restorative sleep, meaning you slept and you wake up exhausted, 100% of those people need a sleep study. And if you haven't had it, doesn't matter, short, fat, long neck, short neck, all the usual stuff your primary care doctor's thinking about, 100% of people who are exhausted despite a night's sleep need a sleep study. You'll be shocked how many positives there are. I went through my chronic fatigue charts. 50% of people were positive that I sent. Oh yeah, and then the other thing is, if you do have a sleep disorder, do the friggin' treatment. Don't come telling me how exhausted you are and you didn't use your CPAP. I'm not gonna be listening to that anymore. I'm done with that one. There was a very good study funded by the CDRMP that used CPAP in people without apnea, just upper airway resistance, and they got very nice clinical responses. So just getting oxygen all night long is good for you. It is the time when you're supposed to repair. So sleep matters. Pain management. Morphine and all of its cousins are immune and inflammatory drugs. So pain management without opiates is the ideal situation. It's not always possible, but opiates are not your friend, okay? So finding other strategies, be they alternative like acupuncture. In our clinic, we use a lot of low-dose naltrexone. Naltrexone is a medication that reduces brain inflammation in very low doses. We do a lot of that. But opiates are not your friend, but neither is pain. So coming up with strategies to address your pain that are opiate as free as possible, that's really important. Let's talk about sleep, pain, energy. Energy at the cellular level is broken. That's why there's so many mitochondrial-based studies going on. Why would all of these systems not work? At a level of an individual cell, every cell in your body, your mitochondria need to work and be in balance. That's your energy production space, and you need to have that work. You have 100 to 1,000-fold more mitochondria in a brain cell than in a muscle cell. This place is burning energy and making a lot more oxidative stress than any other place in your body. So you have to pay attention to oxidative stress and mitochondria. And in that world, everything you put in your mouth should make your body feel better, and junk is not your friend, okay? If you're going to be trying to do healing, your food should be healing, and junk is not healing. And there's precious little opportunity, they're messing with you, the precious little opportunity in your day-to-day life to take control of this, but why put crud into this system that doesn't detoxify, that has an abnormal microbiome that's sick, and needs to have just healthier foods and healthier stuff going in. The catch-24 of chronic fatigue syndrome and Gulf War illness is that you don't have much energy, but if you don't do anything, you'll have less energy. Your body deconditions very rapidly. Look at the astronauts. They go up for 6 weeks, they come back with 20-30% reduction in their muscle mass. It's huge, right? You put someone in a hospital bed for a week and they lose 5% of their muscle mass. That's amazing. So you have to do a little something, and the only way to do it is through pacing. So, and don't think that you're going to become a marathon runner. The best way to think of reconditioning in this illness is interval training. 3 minutes at a time, big exercise for 3 minutes, a tiny little break, lay down, let it perfuse some more, get up and do another 3 minutes. But don't go 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 1 hour, because you can't do that, and it's not going to work. You're going to do much better if you do 2 or 3 3-minute efforts in a day, and then try to work up the number of efforts per day that you do. So deconditioning, reconditioning matters, and you can do it, and you will find your wall, and you will crash, and then you're going to try to remember where that wall was and don't go to that wall again, but keep trying, okay? So those are my best pearls of the day. Did I lose any? Pearls of the day, okay, we'll call that. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Klimas, and the rest of our panelists. That was some amazing knowledge, and thank you to everyone who asked questions. It really helps us to understand what you need to know and be able to give you the information you need. So thank you again to everyone for coming to our 2020 SHIELD Conference. There are still some people mingling about in the atrium, so if you'd like to do some networking and make some new connections, please just make your way across the campus space between here and the building across. Thank you again. Here is our survey study. So if you want to be connected with clinical trials that work for you, you can scan the QR code or call the number or email that email, and those flyers are also on your way out. So thank you again, and have a great rest of your day.